So, Mark, the Rock and Roll Half Marathon was this weekend on the Strip. And did you see the video? It's your absolute dream. No cars anywhere, just people running up and down the Strip. Definitely one of the nicer venues for a half marathon.
No, it'd be really cool to be down there running. I mean, if you're going to run somewhere, at least you got stuff to look at, which if they're serious, I'm guessing they're not paying attention to that. But, you know, people that are just doing it that like to run marathons for fun, it's definitely a cool venue. It did remind me a bit of like a Disney queue because you had like people running this way, people running that way, people walking in the middle. It looked like everybody was rushing to get on a ride or something. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, they have a 10K and then the half marathon. And I think the 10K, they turn around at an earlier spot on the Strip. And then the half marathon, I think they went all the way downtown. But it's cool that they're running up and down the Strip. So it doesn't, I think it is completely using Las Vegas Boulevard. So very unique. And it looked like a great time.
Yeah, so, and, you know, life went on, so it can be done. We can shut it all down.
All right, Mark, it seems like there's so many projects in Las Vegas right now that people have doubts about. You know, the MSG Sphere is struggling, but that'll probably get done. Fontainebleau sat there for over a decade, but that'll probably get done. And then you have the Vegas Loop, which is partially done, or there's a few stations. And we talked about the Resorts World part and the Convention Center part. I even have a whole video on the channel for people who want to see what it looks like. But eventually, the Vegas Loop is supposed to expand to 69 stations around the city. And they got to start working on that at some point. And it seems like they are. They have agreed to buy 1.3 acres from UNLV in the parking lot of Thomas and Mack Center. This new station there is going to be the central hub for getting to Allegiant Stadium and the Convention Center. So they're going to use, you know, the main tunnels and then secondary tunnels. All still a little confusing, but they're moving along, moving forward.
Yeah, it's good to see progress. You know, we've talked about traffic a lot on the show and then on the Strip and around the Strip. So anything to alleviate that is going to be welcomed, even if it is just people driving Ubers in a tunnel, essentially, instead of having, you know, with the buses and all this stuff that we thought we were going to have. So it's good to see. And, you know, UNLV, that'll be cool to have a stop for them, you know, near their campus for all the people that go there. And hopefully, you know, this works as well as you hope it does. Or think it will.
Well, I think this is a great spot for the station in the Thomas and Mack parking lot that's on UNLV's campus, but also accessible for sporting events and things like that. And it seems like they're setting this up as like the hub, so they're getting the land. And I think there's land in the parking lot there to be sold. UNLV has to sell it for fair market value, so it's not like they're giving a deal to Vegas Loop. That's all part of their bylaws with the Nevada higher education bureaucracy. So Vegas Loop, boring, will be paying for this, but it's good news, and we're moving forward, and maybe a few years from now we'll have a couple dozen stations. I think that this whole system is going to take a long time to build out, but they need to make these deals in order for it to happen. We talked on the last show about Brightline, how they're kind of moving through all the processes that they have to get this train built, and Boring is doing that with the Vegas Loop. And to your point, yeah, maybe it's taxis underground, but we have so many traffic issues on the Strip, so this will help. It's not a train. It's significantly cheaper than a train. We're never getting an underground subway here. So, I'm excited. I have hopes. I really like the system. I think it's cool. I've ridden it many times. I also don't think it's a replacement for a subway or mass transit of that type. So I see both sides of the deal.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see when everything is up and running, you know, what kind of volume of people they can put through there, what kind of weights we're seeing, you know, issues along those lines. I know early on there's going to be tons of issues, but, you know, a couple years down the road when everything's complete, it'll be, you know, what does this save? Is it being used? You know, are you having to wait 5 to 10 minutes for, you know, your slot to show up and all that? And the other thing I was thinking, you know, reading the story was, I wonder how many college kids go to the Strip. Can they afford to? Is it even like a thing, or do they stay kind of in their little area with their, you know, college bars and stuff like that? I don't know if you would even know this, but I'm just curious to see what kind of draw, you know, UNLV kids get to the Strip and all that.
I think one of the big draws of going there is just being in Las Vegas and the atmosphere. And UNLV is only located a few blocks from the Strip. So I do think a lot of college students hang out on the Strip. Obviously, they're not buying $20 drinks all the time. And, you know, just like you would see
or
anywhere else,
the $1,500 or the $1,500 six-pack we're going to talk about in a bit.
Yeah, crazy beers. But, you know, they're young and hanging out. So I think this is good for for them. And, you know, they also do have college hangouts all over around UNLV. So it's kind of very typical college campus lifestyle, except you're, a mile from the Las Vegas Strip. So I do think that there is some influence there, and it'll be good. And not only that, for students, once they build out the system, you can get downtown, you can get to different areas all around. So it'll be good in that way. But will it be enough to, you know, offset having a train? Would a train have been better? Since I'm just going to know that people are going to comment. Maybe. Now, talking about public financing, that public financing of the disaster that is the Tropicana interchange is going on. Dropicana is what they called it. They're redoing the entire interchange. As part of that, Tropicana...
They should call it Crashicana, it sounds like, or Wrong Way Acana.
Yeah, Wrong Way Acana. Yeah, it's been pretty ugly. Part of that we've talked about is a diverging diamond interchange temporarily on Tropicana, meaning that because it's only 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, and in order to eliminate a traffic signal, basically cars temporarily cross onto the other side of the street. This is a very efficient sort of interchange, but it's confusing, and a lot of people have been driving wrong ways. There have been a lot of incidents there. So what they're doing is installing new signage. They're repainting the streets. And then I think in like 6-7 months, they're going to have to do it all over again for the other half of the bridge while they do it. But it's going to be till 2024 that this diverging diamond's there. I saw a video a few weeks ago of a truck, a semi, turning the wrong way, going down the wrong way on this street. So it's definitely a problem.
Yeah, you know, I have no love for diverging diamonds. I hate them around here. And there's never enough signage to show what's going on. And you know, my cousin's a big person in the DOT in Michigan, and he explained it as it isn't so much about, you know, flow of traffic or anything. Everything they do, like the roundabouts and stuff like that, is to eliminate head-on collisions. They don't want, you know, front end to front end. So these make it so when people hit each other, they usually are hitting on the side or back, you know, less casualty, catastrophic damage type of thing. So that's really what the goal is, except for when you got people going the wrong way down the road, it's doing the opposite of what was the intent.
Yeah, it also does eliminate a left turn to get onto the freeway, which I think in this case is the big deal, because that left turn is so busy. And even when the interchange was at full capacity, the lines would get big. So I think that that's the main reason they're doing it. People turning left, you know, from Tropicana onto I-15 South. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's not going away, but they're at least making it a little nicer for drivers, and it's still going to be ugly for a long time. Now, speaking of ugly, Mark, did you hear about the shooting at Cosmo? Specifically, this guy shot himself, it seems like. He had a gun in his pants and apparently went off, so he shot himself. Then all of a sudden he's on the ground. Paramedics come. He stuffs the gun under a machine. It turns out to be a ghost gun, one of those guns where the serial numbers were filed off. So I guess he's going to jail as well. I think he survived the shooting. I think he's okay. He was in critical condition, but a crazy story. Never know when someone's going to be carrying a gun, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, is he robbing banks in Vegas too? Because this is kind of that level of stuff that we've seen where people are, you know, using a cab after a bank robbery and have them drop them off at their house. But you shouldn't be walking around with your gun without the safety on. I mean, that's just kind of crazy. It happens everywhere. We've always seen people, you know, self-shoot themselves. But the fact that he had like a warrant out and has a history, you know, shouldn't be carrying a gun, for all the ways to get busted. I mean, this is about as bad as it gets for yourself.
Yeah, I hope his health, I hope he recovers. I mean, that's got to be such a terrible, painful thing. And he'll pay for everything else that he did. But just an insane moment, I imagine, on the casino floor as that happened, watching it happen, not knowing what was going on. I'm sure it was pretty scary for people. And I guess if there's going to be a shooting in a casino, this is the best possible scenario. I don't know. That's crazy to say, but...
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, but, and you know, everybody that's in there in the vicinity, luckily it happened at like 5 a.m, so it was probably pretty vacant. But if you were there, you know, with all the mass shootings we've seen, one just happened at Michigan State a couple weeks ago, that's your initial thought. Anytime you hear a loud bang, gunfire, especially in a crowded area, and Vegas has a history with it too. So I couldn't even imagine what I'd be thinking if I'm like sitting rolling dice and I hear a loud gunshot go off at a slot machines behind me. I'm getting under the table, I'm ducking, you don't know. You're waiting for more bullets to fly, and that's kind of the sad space we are in. So that's, you know, why you hope that they wouldn't bring it into a crowded place, but it's just kind of crazy.
Definitely crazy. So Hard Rock's taking over Mirage, and we're going to start to see different changes. We saw a change to the way that they do blackjack, the rules for their dealers to follow, which gives them a slightly better house advantage, apparently. And something new, too, the Mirage non-smoking slot area has been taken out. It's funny, we talked on the last show about if you'd stay in your least favorite Vegas casino for a free trip, and we talked about Vegas Introvert and how he hated Park MGM. And I guess somebody told me that he's a smoker, so I guess that makes sense why he hated Park MGM. But it's done fairly well, it seems like, with the non-smoking. It took a little while for that to catch on. We see the Plaza building a non-smoking casino area, the Brian Christopher Slots area, that's under construction now downtown. So those sorts of things seem to have been popular, especially at Park MGM. But I never thought that like non-smoking rooms were, great because they're still part of the casino. You get less smoke, I guess. You're not having the guy next to you smoking, but you're still smelling smoke from the casino. This non-smoking area was the former poker room at Mirage, so maybe they'll be using it for something else. I doubt it's going to turn back into poker.
Yeah, well, they have the no smoking rooms here in Detroit in the casinos, and I mean, better air purifier and all that. So maybe you don't smell it as much, but you're definitely going to still get hit with it as you go anywhere else. So I can see that, and I know a lot of comments on Twitter were that this area wasn't used that much. They were throwing like private parties in it and stuff like that, and the machines weren't the best. So I'm guessing it was just floor space that wasn't being optimized. So I'm sure they'll find something to do with it that'll make them some money, especially, with the new takeover and everything. They're probably looking, hey, anything we can improve upon, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, the poker room at Mirage used to have a great atmosphere. I had a friend whose husband was a manager there, so I hung out there a few times way back in the day, and it was a great place, a lot of regulars, just a very cool atmosphere. And then one day they closed it, as they've done with many poker rooms. And I'm guessing that they're just like, well, what are we going to do with this space? Let's turn it into a non-smoking gaming space. And it's like an afterthought, right? And you're right. A lot of people said the machines in there weren't very good. You're not going to get the newest, best machines in these areas. So I can see Hard Rock doing a lot of this stuff over the next year or so, kind of adjusting stuff before they get into the major renovations, making things work for them. Maybe we'll see a poker room come back. The Hard Rocks in Florida have giant poker rooms. So maybe we'll see, as part of the new renovation, a poker room return to that property, but we will see. But buy non-smoking slots. And as you talked about earlier, there is the most expensive beer in Las Vegas. I figured this story was perfect for you. I know how much you love beer. Brewdog is that new bar on the south end of the Strip with the rooftop bar. Looks very nice. And they have a 6-pack of beer that costs $1,500.
Yeah. I mean, I get turned off when the beer's like $30 for a 4-pack around here, and I mean, that's nuts. It's not even like, Vegas loves to throw these things where you get a burger and it comes with Dom and it's $700 because of that. Beer, I don't know that any beer could be worth more than $50 a bottle. It blows my mind. I can't fathom it being that great. But, we've seen people spend money in Vegas on really weird stuff, and, they're spending millions of dollars to watch the Formula One race and get tickets and private bar and stuff like that. So I'm sure somebody will buy it, on a regular weekend basis. It wouldn't surprise me.
It's nice for the people who don't drink like hard liquor or champagne to have an option to splurge, right? I mean, this is their version of Cristal.
Beer people have been beating it down. The beer Instagrammers have been like, hey, where do I flex and try to get, followers if I don't drink champagne and stuff. So, yeah. I mean, what did it say? It has, like, caviar in it, glacier water, hops from all over the world. Even all that, I'm like, okay, maybe, like, $75 for a bottle?
Yeah, it's called the High Roller Chocolate Dessert Stout. Now, there is one thing. It comes in 500 milliliter bottles, so 17 ounces. So you're getting more than, like, in a standard 12-ounce
deal alert.
Bottle. And, yeah, if it was sold by the gallon, it would fetch $1,900 a gallon, which is less than Chanel No. 5, but more than human blood. All right, and let's finish with Resorts World. They talked about their earnings update, the parent company did, and there isn't a lot here other than, I think, what we can deem from these numbers, which show definitely an increase year over year, still a small loss when you factor in all of their expenses and interest and everything else. 84% occupancy for the year, so they added 3,500 rooms to inventory here, and yet 84% occupancy for the year is pretty much in line with other casinos. So it seems like they got their market share right away. There's still a lot of tweaking. There's still some money being lost. But with all of their momentum in the entertainment space, everything sort of that they got on the lineup for entertainment, working with the music festivals, all of that, I think you could say that their launch has been fairly successful.
Yeah, the numbers were definitely better than I had expected to see. We give them a hard time sometimes because it's not the best product out there. And that's one of the things I'm wondering, like, what percentage of this 84%, and I think even last quarter was like up to 89% occupancy, what percentage is that people first time wanting to check out the property? You usually get a couple years. Similar to opening a stadium, you're going to sell out a lot of games, even if the team's bad, for a couple years because people just want to see it. How many of those people are going to come back to Resorts World afterwards because it's one of their favorite locations? That's the real goal, and the real issue is, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, what kind of recapture rate are we seeing? Are people picking that as one of their top 3 places that they go? Is it in their rotation? And I think only time will tell there. But I give them a lot of credit. They put a lot of effort into creative things to bring people in the door. It's just the hotel product isn't my favorite for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the hotels are nice, right? We both think that. They're very corporate, very off the shelf, very much anything you could find in any Hilton anywhere in this country. Crockford's maybe the exception to that. We both love the Crockford's lobby. It's great. The rooms, I've stayed in a suite there, beautiful at Crockford's. But as far as the Hilton and Conrad go, it's that way. And we've talked about, how it feels a little cold in there. And a lot of viewers have agreed with that. So they definitely have challenges, but they've also nailed it out of the park with their partnerships on the entertainment side, their residencies, turning into the EDC hotel, which is an upcoming thing that they're doing. So they're doing great. One other interesting thing I noticed from here is that they said convention attendance has reached 97% of pre-pandemic levels, in 2023 attendance is expected to surpass 2019 levels as larger conventions return and new sporting events are introduced, such as Formula One and the NFL Pro Bowl here in 2023. So clearly, I guess they're counting these big events. We talked on the last show about how experiences and events are maybe what are taking over for the old sort of corporate meetups, and this seems to say it. They're saying 2023 is going to be the best convention year ever, so good news, I guess, on that front as well.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that. I wonder if they're, fudging the numbers somehow or what, because it just doesn't seem like there's as many conventions, and maybe, like we've said, the space is being used for different things, so as long as the space is rented out, that counts, and so maybe that's where it's going, but it just doesn't seem like, and this is everywhere, conventions just aren't what they were before, so maybe Vegas is, ahead of the curve here, getting experiences to show up, and we have like the streaming, the Twitch convention moving there and stuff like that. So maybe they're, taking that from other areas, and that's kind of boosting their rates and what we're seeing booked there.
Definitely. I'd love to hear what people think about that. Do you think Resorts World is doing well? Do you think that they're failing? And then also the return of conventions, the boring Vegas loop. What do you think about that? $250 a bottle of beer. Let us know in the comments. Let's discuss everything we talked about on this show. We do two shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in just a few days with another show. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and thanks for watching. See you guys next week.
I love that the company is called Boring, so it's always Boring Vegas Loop. Instead of fun Vegas Loop or something. But yeah, see you guys on Friday. Have a good week.